Sorry.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast. I was just thinking, just randomly, because, Dave is always just waking up right before the show. Do you guys want to do like a Dawn of the Dave movie? So write a script for that and submit it?
Oh, I would love a Dawn of the Dave movie. Would it be a straight parody of zombie movies or just of Dave?
No, I think it would. I don't know. I could go either way.
I would prefer it if it wasn't a zombie.
From the creative director over there.
If it wasn't a zombie parody, but it was just about Dave, like what it's like, and Dawn is like 4 p.m., right?
I've been up all day today.
Wow. Dave, you saying that you've been up all today reminds me of that Chris Rock thing where
wait. We're not even broadcasting, you guys.
Oh, okay. Well, then I have to repeat all my jokes. I was just going to say that Dave saying I've been up all day reminds me of the Chris Rock thing where he was talking about people who say, I take care of my kids. That's what you're supposed to do, dummy.
I still think it's hilarious. I don't know what it was 2 weeks ago when Dave was just indignant about how he had to get up before 5.
All right. So today's show is going to be about, today's guest is Dave drinking coffee?
No, he's never had coffee.
The show's actual, just keep checking in on Dave. Today's guest is going to be Mark Dawson, who we haven't had on in a while, but Mark just continues to take the publishing world by storm. He's got his Facebook for Facebook ads program. He's got his own successful career. He's got, well, I don't know what I can say and what I can't, but anyway, so that'll be really cool to talk to Mark in a few minutes. And in the meantime, I think Sean wants to go first with this something cool.
Oh, well, I had a joke something cool, which was just that Dave doesn't like to share. But I actually don't want to dig into that because okay, I'll dig into that then. So there's something I wanted to do with Dave where it's basically creative brainstorming. And his objection is that he hates giving people his ideas. And he also hates when other people have ideas that are there locked in a vault because he can't do anything with them because they came up in a public space. And so it's a very frustrating experience for him. So while I'm trying to spread the message that ideas are free and everywhere and exciting and you can generate...
And this is for the whole company's benefit, I'll add. This
right. This is for the whole company's benefit. and I'm like, and it doesn't even occur to me that this isn't going to be fun for Dave. I actually put it back to back with our normal CI meeting so that he'll be there. We could just roll right into it. It'll be fun. He's like, no, I'm not sharing my ideas.
What I said was, I hate the idea, but I will talk about it further with you. So
he did say that, but I don't want him to do something he hates. I just don't understand why he hates it.
Here every week. What are you talking about?
Now, see, that makes the smart artist sad, Dave. It really does.
Makes them happy in that they're sad. I think that's love to be hated.
That is true. Well, my real something cool is the show. Have you guys seen or heard of it called I'm Dying Up Here?
You mentioned it. I don't remember the details.
Yeah, so I just finished episodes on Showtime, which is the show that Joey should have been. And it was funny. We were done, and I was looking for something else on Showtime to just roll over into.
Episodes you were watching.
I was watching Episodes. Yeah, the show is actually called Episodes. And then I saw another show that just the graphic was somebody like collapsed next to a bar stool, all white background, and like a mic cord around them. And it was called I'm Dying Up Here. And there's only one season, and I'm about to watch the last one of season 1 tonight. So I'm kind of sad because I really want to stay in this world. But Johnny and Dave both know that I think there's a lot of storytelling possibility with stand-up comics because they're just filled with like we talked so many times. Humor comes from a very dark place. That kind of stand-up humor where you're there. I mean, good stand-up comedy, right? Usually comes from a very dark place.
The funnier you are.
It is true, which was one of the themes.
I've seen comedians that you're like, you never hear any reports about them having shitty personal lives. You're like, they're happy people, and their comedy is terrible.
So, like, this is something we wanted to explore in Monstrous, although Dave wouldn't let me. But it is a really good theme, and so there's this show on Showtime is like a family drama. Except the family is all this like collection of comics who are trying to make it on the Sunset Strip in the 70s. And like their goal is just to get on Carson and then, all the other doors open up, Sitcom City, whatever. And it's just really good because there's a lot of it's a really rich premise to mind for great dialogue and great personal relationships. And then it's just kind of punctuated with their few minutes on stage, every so often. But not only do you get their comedy routine, which is really fun, you also get just insight into their comedy and how it relates to who they are. So you basically see who these characters are as writers and humans and the way they express that through comedy. And it's a layered show. I like it a lot. I'm really sad I'm on the last one already.
Okay, I'll go. So I had a something cool planned, but then I also have a something sad that just goes like,
oh no.
It's I just got the email yesterday that Mark is leaving Kobo.
Oh, yeah, that is sad.
And that made me sad because he's our favorite rep. Hopefully the other reps aren't listening. But anyway, so he's moving on to do other things. However, the good news is that I did reply immediately and say, "Can we have you on the show to talk about this?" And he said, "Okay." So about it. My real something cool is
for the truth.
Right. We're gonna drill them. My real something cool is the Austin Film Festival. I'm surprised that it hasn't come up yet, although I guess we only did the one show a while ago. Sean and I went to the Austin Film Festival, and we didn't know what to expect at all. We were just like, what should we do?
How many films did we see at the film festival, Johnny?
Well, we saw one. It just wasn't a film festival.
Okay, how many films did we see at the festival, Johnny?
0. But I guess I didn't get how. I mean, we attended it like a conference, and it was a conference. There were just a ton of, I can't even imagine how many panelists and speakers they had. It had to be 100.
So many, yes.
Yeah,
so
there were
many.
7 or 8 tracks going at any given time, and just a wealth of experience. I actually have a something cool queued up for the next episode that'll drill down on one of the topics, and they'll probably keep coming up, and we'll probably reach out to some of the people that we saw and see if they want to be on the show. But it was just really, really interesting to look at this business from the side of TV and film, and there's just so much that we don't know, and just people out there working it. And honestly, what I thought was, there were 2 things I thought were really super interesting on a meta level. One was how traditionally minded a lot of this business seems to be. There were a few people who mentioned writing books, and they didn't talk about self-publishing or anything. They talked about
it wasn't even an option. They weren't even aware of it, which is funny because the whole indie movement came early to film. They get that.
Right. But they're in a world of managers and agents and gatekeepers. And so I think that
everything is collaboration in film.
That's what I was going to say was on the flip side was the other thing is they just speak collaboratively as if this is just expected. The idea of not working collaboratively, the idea of working by yourself is just kind of absurd. There was one woman who was doing a video solely by herself. She got the equipment and set it up, but that was it. Like everybody else, nobody would consider anything like that. You're always working with other writers.
And she's doing it as an experiment, like writers would experiment with collaboration. I wonder if I could do this thing by myself. And oddly, it felt like we were home because, we want to get into film and television, but just the fact that everything by nature was so collaborative, it was really interesting to go to panels and hear the way that they're running writers' rooms and see what we could, glean for ourselves. And it was really a reconnaissance mission for us because next year.
What was so nice about it is that we had no expectations and we weren't the sort of cliche desperate filmmaker looking for agents or anything like that. We didn't have anything we wanted to sell. We just wanted to check it out, try to meet people, that sort of thing. So I feel prepared for next year.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect at all. And I think Johnny thought I would because it was my idea and I'm the movie guy, but I'd never been to a film festival and I thought there would be a lot more actual films. And there are.
We just didn't go to them. There were a shit ton of films.
Right. And all through this week too. But we really went and we focused on meeting people and going to actual content. we
all day too. We never do that. Whenever we go to things like South by Southwest or something like that, it's just to kind of hang out and meet people. But we went all day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We were there just basically all day and late one of those nights.
And spent time mapping it out. Okay, what which one of these panels will give Sterling and Stone the most juice? What's the most stuff that we can share? What's the most, what's going to add?
The panels that we saw, there were some about show running and writers' rooms.
There were a lot about show running
podcasts.
Yeah, I think you and I picked 3 buckets basically, and they repeated many times. So I think that's normal for us. We're okay. We want to figure this thing out, and anytime that rose to the surface, it was worth our time. So that was show running. Anytime there was a conversation about writers' rooms or what show running is going to be like, or how to get the most out of your team, we went to those. There was a podcast track. It was the first time ever for a podcast track, and they talked about just audio fiction. And then there was really about adaptation. So taking stuff that's written literary work. This is really relevant, not just to us, but really to a lot of people listening, and adapting that. Like if you want to adapt your stuff for film or for television. And there were a couple tracks. One we went to that was script to screen for American Gods.
That was really, really cool because they'd describe a scene and give you some behind the scenes, and we'd watch it. And then they'd give you the technical difficulties and the way that they had to adapt it and what they did with certain characters. And it was really, really cool.
Yeah, and what it's like taking one piece of a book and saying, okay, well, we need multiple seasons out of this. So they're really mining the book as individual storylines that could last full episodes and episode arcs. And then we went to one.
You would have been fascinated by a lot of this. Like there was a dude who worked on Better Call Saul, and
he was great. Yeah, he was really great. And his story, he told a story about he was the only one on the new writers room who he hadn't worked on Breaking Bad. Everybody else had worked on Breaking Bad before, so he was the new kid who had to. And they didn't have studio offices yet.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So the very first meeting, he has to go to Vince Gilligan's house, and everybody's already there, and he doesn't know, should I knock hard or soft? Like, I'm an asshole either way. Like, he just didn't know.
Didn't he have a thing where he knocked soft, but then he thought, now nobody's going to hear that, and if I knock again, then I look.
Yeah, I totally thought of Dave in that moment. But there was another panel called Great Adaptations that was all about script to screen in a very general sense. How do you take this book and find a way to adapt it? And they had people who, like the guy from The Arrival who wrote the Arrival script was there. That I Love Dick show. We saw her on a couple of panels, actually.
She was great.
She was a riot. she adapted it from this really obscure, like crazy novel to a crazy, obscure Amazon series.
Hard adaptation too. It was a short metaphysical story, basically.
Yeah, so they've done, it was really interesting because that is where we're going to be. We want to take our catalog and, convert it to script. And so it was really exciting to be in a world that we want to enter into and be there as observers.
And Dave, anything from you? And then maybe if Mark has something cool now that he's popped in too, we'll have to see. But
yes, I watched season 2 of Stranger Things, and I absolutely loved it. I think it was it really paid service to the fans. I think a lot of the stuff that it did, they paid attention. You could tell that they paid attention to what fans wanted, and pretty much gave you that plus more. So I think it was very well done.
I'm on episode 4. I'm digging it.
I'll start season 1 eventually.
All right. I'll ask later.
Right.
Hey, man, Mark.
Welcome, Mark Dawson, to the show. Sporting a new look today. It was a little different. I was expecting, he's got some facial hair there.
I like it. It works.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in kind of pre-course preparation mode. It just means I don't shave properly for ages. So, slovenly.
Oh, say slovenly again, because I think Dave really enjoys that.
I've actually bought some crumpets.
I can't hear Mark.
Dave, actually, just to make him feel warm and fuzzy with the accent. But slovenly. There you go. How's that?
There you go. Yeah, actually, Dave. But both of you guys are a little low. Mark and Dave, your levels are a little low. I don't know what to do about that, but let's just note it. There it is.
I can't hear Mark at all.
Oh, you can't hear him at all? We can hear him.
Like
I can hear him.
A whisper.
Yeah, Dave, you can just. I might as well leave then, right?
All right.
Bye, Dave.
All right, so great to have you on, Mark. It's been a while. I know that we talked to John and James when we were at NINC, and just had I think a good little conversation. Maybe they circled back and said how much fun we all had hanging out, and missed you there. So
Yeah, I was going to come. Is that better, Dave? I turned the
Yes.
excellent. Yeah, I was going to come, but I did RWA this year in Orlando, and we've got two little kids, and then we added a puppy to the mix. And I just thought if I go to Florida twice in 6 weeks, my wife would divorce me, and that would be the end of things. So I passed on that and let those two go along. But I heard it was great. Some great speakers. I really would have loved to see David Gogren and Chris Fox and you guys. So I'm pleased it went well. I had good reports.
Yeah, I didn't quite know what to expect, and I was blown away. I thought it was a really, really good conference and super professional authors, and every conversation was intelligent, which is like makes me so happy. So no, it was a great time.
Even the ones with James and John.
They were fantastic. That was a lot of fun. You have such a pro crew. Like they get it done. Like they get it done and they ask the right questions in the right order and they know how to set it up. And I mean, we had it going against us too. We had this crazy sun just like beating the shit on us through the window and they just rolled the whole time. And no, you have a great crew.
Yeah, they're good. They're good. I won't tell them. I don't tell them that too much, but no, they're excellent. They're very good. Make me look.
I know their heads get big.
Well,
Stop that.
Well, let's start there because I actually had something I wanted to ask you about in terms of just being pro. Everything that you do is super, super pro. Like from the beginning. I don't actually know your relationship with James and John, but it's looked to me like they just kind of flit around the globe with all this equipment, recording people for you. So. You want to talk about that a little bit, about the importance of just really leveling up?
Yeah, we go back a long way. We all used to work in the same company, which was the equivalent of the MPAA, motion picture, the kind of certification guys in the US. We were the BBFC, the British Board of Film Classification, which basically means we spent a lot of time watching pornography together. So we've known each other for a long time.
Is it just a sideways question? Is the system similar there that it is to here, where it's just like random and kind of stupid,
ruining movies?
Yeah,
it is similar. Yeah, I mean, kind of an hour would be a 15 over, and I think we're a bit. It's weird actually. We're much more liberal. I suppose this says a lot about our two countries, but we're much
with
more
language
liberal
than violence, right?
No, sex. We're more liberal on sex, and you guys get very upset about sex. But
I don't know what our problem is.
But you guys love violence.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. You see some stuff that's here with like PG-13 and there's like beheadings and crazy stuff. Yeah, I'm with you.
So those were the differences. But yeah, we go back a long way. They left to set up a video production company about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And then I stayed on for a bit longer and then left to go full time with the writing. And Nick Stevenson, who's a friend of mine, launched his course, 10K readers, and I thought, because I'm quite competitive, I thought, well, I could do that, and I'm going to do it better than you. And James and John, I emailed them on coming back on the train from London one night and said, I'm thinking about doing a course. Would you be interested? And serendipitously, they wanted to do the same thing. So we got together, and we've always been really fastidious about quality. And as we've progressed and done it for longer and longer, we've been able to afford a bit more in terms of quality and presentation and all that kind of stuff. So we're very keen to make sure that it's all really super high quality stuff. And those guys are much more talented at that than I am. So it works well.
It doesn't feel like you ever bootstrapped, though. It feels like you went from nothing to really professional. I mean, is that just my perception?
We're good blaggers, basically.
I think you seem so refined to Americans too.
Possibly, yeah. That accent helps.
Right.
I think
it is a sheen of paint on everything. It's so awesome.
It's especially we've spent quite a bit of money on a new website this year, which is I wanted to be best in class, and it's probably not. It's very good. We're pleased with it, and the videos are always high quality. James is a really good editor. They work well together. And I'm a really just from writing, I'm really, really careful to make sure that the product is as good as I can make it, and that also goes through into the other side of the business too. So, for example, I had to re-record tons of Facebook stuff because Zuckerberg changed the interface, which is really helpful a month before a course launch. So I spent ages making sure everything is accurate, so the interface is the same. And I heard that a couple of the soundtracks had degraded over time, so I re-recorded all of them just so that it sounds as nice and as professional as I can make it. I think it's not a cheap course. So I want people to have a really, really great experience with it. So, there you go.
Well, so maybe Facebook is a good place to start because that's the first big course that we saw you do. And I'll just mention before we delve in here that we really get behind Mark and his courses. I mean, like we said, second to none in terms of quality and professionalism. So we created some bonuses. sterlingandstone.net/Dawson. You can get in on our bonuses for that. But what's new in Facebook? What's new in what has changed? What do people need to know? What's working?
I think the kind of more fundamentally, before we even get into Facebook, the issue that has changed things a lot for me over the last 12 months or so is read through. So I was always very conservative. Just I guess it's just the way I am. I only like to take into account money that I know is definitely coming in from an ad. So if I sell a $6.99 box set, I know I'm going to get $4.90, provided it doesn't get refunded. So I can bank that effectively. And then knowing that, then you can work out your return on investment, all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty conservative, but it's quite reliable. Then as I started thinking about it a bit more over the last year or so, it's not a realistic way of thinking how readers behave. So we can think about this as readers ourselves. So if I love Ian Banks, for example, so if I started reading the first Ian Banks book, The Wasp Factory, it's probably not going to be the last one that I read. In fact, with him, I've read everything. So he had probably 10 or maybe 20 kind of straight literature, then his sci-fi as well. So instead of just having the one purchase, I probably went on and bought 20 books, which means that the actual value of that first sale, which you make with an ad, isn't $4.90. It's much more than that. And once you start to accept that and realize what the real situation is, it changes everything. So for me, what I've been doing over the last 6 months or so is I put the first book in my Milton series down to 99 cents and then directed a shitload of ad spend towards it across all platforms, Facebook, Amazon, and BookBub. So just for example, in August on Facebook, I spent something like $5,500 sending traffic just to that book. And if you only look at the 35 cents that I was getting back every time I had a sale, it would look like a massive loss, probably a 90% loss in terms of return. But when you factor in the fact that each one of those sales is probably worth between about $7 and $14, suddenly the return it was about $14,000. So you spend $5.5, make whereas between $10,000 and $14,000. It's a much different way of looking at things, and it liberates you when it comes to what you can afford to do and what your tactics and strategies could be when you advertise.
So are you still? Last time we talked about this, you had sort of a dual pronged approach. One was like a list building approach, and then the other was selling a book. And actually, I think that you were looking at this a little bit differently. You said just now that you were throwing a bunch at the first book in the Milton series. And I think last time we were talking about the purchase ads being ones for box sets. So has some of that changed?
I run ads to both of those things. So with the box set, you can charge a little more for the box set. It's more appealing in terms of the value, the perceived value for the reader, because they're getting 3 or 4 books rather than just one. So it's easier to make an immediate return on those without even worrying about read through. But for the 99-cent ones, yeah, that's a little different. In order to make those profitable, that's not a tactic that I would recommend to someone with 1 or 2 books. You probably need to have 4 or 5 books, and you need also to be sure that you're getting read through. So that there are ways to kind of work that out from just kind of common sense basis to looking at the maths of book 1, book 2, book 3 sales and seeing how that trickles down, surveying your readers, all of that kind of stuff. You can kind of determine and have a pretty good guess what the actual read through is.
What about list building?
Yeah, list building. I still do a lot of that. So I mean, I've got about 100,000 readers on the list now, and I'm always building it from wherever I can find, just organically from the books or from ads. And the best ad, I'll kind of rip this. I haven't told anyone about this, but I'll tell you guys. The best ad I've
nobody listening.
No one listening, exactly. The best one I've run for the last 6 months or so is a fairly clever, even if I do say so myself, way of using the carousel ads on Facebook. So if you imagine what the carousel ads look like, you have 2 panels effectively that you can kind of swipe left and right. What I've done is to turn that into a questionnaire or like a quiz. So you have the question would be, now I'm sending this, let's just say this, the fans of Lee Child on the one hand and David Baldacci on the other hand. And you say, the battle is on who is the most exciting fictional character? Is it Will Roby or Jack Reacher? And then you have a picture of kind of a generic male character in both of the carousel boxes, and you invite them to click or to tap to register their vote. And when they vote, it's a Facebook lead gen. So the first thing they see when they get it is a thank you for voting, and then also would you like, if you like Jack Reacher, you'll definitely like John Milton. So here are 2 free books. Sign up to the list.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and you can really amp that up with some cool stuff with messenger bots and stuff like that. So even if they leave comments in the comment box, which happens quite a lot, I've got one ad for Patricia Cornwall's fans with something like 5,000 comments on it, which is great for relevance for Facebook. It means that the Facebook thinks it's a hot ad, so they serve it cheaper, so you're going to get a double bonus there. But every time someone leaves a comment, I've hooked up my messenger bot, chat bot, so that they are sent a message saying, thanks for your comment. Would you like 2 free books? So you just basically, it's another way to kind of make sure that the bucket doesn't leak too much. As it's added, I'm adding, 10 to 15 cents per subscriber on that basis, and they're all qualified subscribers because they're in your genre.
Yeah, no, that your filtering is fantastic. Are you still doing your own ads, or do you just basically have like, this is the Mark Dawson rule book, like this is what the course is based on, here's my 10 commandments, and then somebody is in charge of your ads?
No, I do my ads myself. Yeah, I wish I could hand it off, to be honest, because I'm so busy. I did with the kind of SPF stuff. I did find someone who knows more about Facebook than me, and I'm confident to leave that to him, because I don't have time to do the detailed analysis that you need to do if you're really going to do it well. You need to look at where the best clicks are coming from, how you can kind of eliminate the expensive ones, and all that kind of stuff.
No, I just think that's so fascinating. Johnny and I one time were talking to one of the best copywriters in the world. They have a big digital marketing firm, and they run a lot of promotions. And my assumption was absolutely, well, of course you have a team of copywriters who are writing everything. No, I still write all the copy. He says, because that's it. Yes, he has a team of copywriters, but at the end of the day, he needs to write all the copy because that's how products get sold. And he has to understand, he has to be on the ground. And I think that's funny. You see that, you're the Facebook guy, but you're keeping your own ads fresh because, not only probably are you most qualified, but it also keeps you right at the edge and learning so that you can continue to refresh that. Because one thing I'll say about your course, from everything I understand, is that it's kind of like a full-time business. It's not, we launched this course. It's that we launched this course, we refine this course, we work on this course.
Oh man,
we are, diligently adding and subtracting to the course.
No, I just saw a comment come up actually in chat there. It was originally Facebook ads for authors. That was how I launched it 3 years ago. Subsequent to that, we've added Amazon ads, BookBub. We had one on Twitter. We've got YouTube, copywriting, ad images, ad creation. There's a Facebook community. There's tons and tons of value, loads of bonuses. And the people who bought it when it was Facebook ads for authors they get everything for free, so they will never have to pay again. Everything we update it so when the interface changes, I'm not going to leave them with a product that doesn't reflect what they need to follow, because that would be a shit consumer experience, and I'm completely against that. So and it's not cheap. So I want to deliver as much value as possible, and we do pretty well. The refund rate is quite low, so I think we're doing some things right, hopefully anyway.
Well, you're always going to have refunds. So if you're keeping it low, we've only heard good stuff. People buy your course and they are very happy with the results. So that's what matters.
Yeah, we've had some lovely stories of people like Adam Croft, sold. He was projecting to make $1 million. I don't know if he did in the end, but he was projected to make $1 million on one book in 2016, just based on Facebook ads, which was ludicrous.
That's insane.
Yeah, when I was at RWA, and someone, a writer called Cecilia, came up and gave me a hug and just said, "I've quit my job, and it's because of your course." And that's very, very nice to hear that kind of feedback.
So one of the things that, when you started talking a lot about Facebook ads, and it seemed, I don't know if it was from other quarters or whether they were all echoes or what, authors started thinking about Facebook. And there's always a saturation effect with something like that, where suddenly, I wonder, has the effectiveness changed? Have you had to adapt to new strategies? Because it seems like more and more people are doing this.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to my accountant the other day. When I started doing Facebook ads, I saw what the numbers were like. I was spending let's say I was spending $1 and making $4. So, I was effectively, I spend 100 and make 400. I went to my accountant and said, this can't be right. This cannot be right. Nothing makes money like that. And he was like, no, this is actually what is happening. It was like an ATM in those days, and it has changed. It's partly my fault because I've taught lots of authors what I was doing. But it's more difficult to, those kind of sky high 400, 500% returns are very difficult to get now, but it is still possible to do, 50 to 150% returns. And if you start doing read through and including that in your calculations, it is, I'm just looking at some numbers now. Yesterday I did 128%. So in other words, spend one, get two and a bit back. So there aren't many investments that you can make anywhere else where you're going to get that on a daily basis. It does work, but it's tougher now for sure.
In a comment, Jackie asks, how do you deal with the constantly changing algorithms?
You just got to try and keep on top of it. But there's algorithms everywhere, isn't there? So Amazon changes, Facebook changes. It's more for, the way I look at it is what's making those platforms most money. That's, no one knows how the algorithms work, but that's got to be at the heart of it. So provided that you're alert to that, and you can, I subscribe to a lot of digital marketing podcasts and resources just to try and see how other people in other industries are reacting to changes, and then just try to apply it to what we do with books.
Yeah, well, I think part of it too is to not, of course you have to pay attention to the algorithms because you have to, but it's really, you have to think about how does that coalesce with the human behavior that it actually matters, because the algorithms, those are always going to be tactical. But if you think in terms of this is how people behave in this context, your ads are always going to outperform the people who are just focused on the tactics, because you understand conversion. What about genres? I know some genre, and I know that this fluctuates too, right? Some of my big problem with Facebook ads is that a lot of people who don't understand what they're doing, or even risk tolerance, or they'll get in the wrong genre or the wrong ad copy, or they almost treat it like gambling. Okay, I've lost so much, I'm bound to win my next ad. And it doesn't really work that way.
If I keep doing it wrong enough, eventually I'll be right.
No, but there is, and people tell themselves that story that, okay, well, I've lost a couple $100 on ads, but now I've figured it out. Now I'm going to do it well. So how do you caution against getting into that gambling mentality, which it's easy to do when you're placing ads, and what genres are most susceptible and kind of easier to navigate around?
Yeah, so when you're testing, you've got to have a little bit of a budget to test. So there's no point in throwing an ad up, spending $100 a day on that ad when you've got no data to see how it's going to perform. So you've got to split test a bit. So you may have to split test the image, you may have to split test the copy. And then you may have to, if it's not converting, then you've got to look at where you're sending the traffic to. So maybe your Amazon page needs a bit of work. Maybe you need a few more reviews, or the blurb needs work, or the cover's not right. All those kinds of typical conversion factors are going to be some things that you're going to have to look at. But provided you've done that and you're prepared to not lose money, you're effectively spending money to learn about what may or may not work. And you don't have to spend a lot either. Facebook doesn't require huge budgets in order to test. Once you've got that ready, then it's time to slowly start to accelerate the spend on the ads that are working. And I always say, I've seen this happen quite a lot. In fact, I've done it myself. I have an ad that is doing like 400 or 500% return at £10 a day or $10 a day, and I'll go, shit, spend $100 on that. Now that will completely screw up the delivery of the ad, and you'll kill the ad like that. So you've got to go really slowly. So 10 to 20 to 30 to 50.
And you teach all this escalation in the course, I imagine, right?
Yeah, and it's a lot of it is speculation. So Facebook hasn't told me this is what you need to do, but I've done it. I've spent $500,000 on Facebook ads in the last 18 months. So I know I've got a lot of data. I'm also quite geeky with spreadsheets and stuff. So I know what works and what doesn't work, and I pass as much of that on as I can. But then on genre, Facebook has over 1 billion people on it, and the same goes for the Amazon has a pretty big audience as well. So if I've seen all kinds of different genres sell, from the big ones. Romance is always going to be hot. It's very hot with Facebook ads. I write thrillers. They work quite well. We've also had people in all kinds of different genres. We've had someone doing walking books, so kind of a walking guide with him and his son going around the UK. That's done quite well. Skiing. And then we had a writer in Denmark called Octavia Randolph, who does kind of historical Norse fiction, right? Kind of romances set in that period. And she went from making a couple of $100 a month to $30,000 a month with Facebook ads. She's one of our kind of outliers, but if there is an audience for your book, so regardless of whether you're writing dinosaur porn or whatever it is you're doing,
Ka-ching.
you can find it. They'll be on Facebook somewhere. I mean, there's all kinds of weird stuff. So
I would really like to see the ad campaign for Abraham Lincoln Fuck Lord of the Moon. Like, I just what would that look like?
What if I missed?
Is there like a minimum budget that people need to have in mind if they're going to experiment with it? Like, if they can't bring this amount to the table, they shouldn't even bother.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say you can experiment. I mean, the minimum is about $5 a day these days for most ads. I would say you can get quite a lot of data from that, but maybe $10 a day for a couple of weeks. So bad. Yeah, I mean, let's just say $200, right? If you can afford to experiment and effectively you can afford to invest that money in learning about what may or may not work, that's probably going to be enough to give you a good head start on that. And then, of course, the thing to do when you get ones that start working is to reinvest the money that you're making into the ads and scale out that way.
So the course used to be called Facebook Ads for Authors. What is it officially called now?
It's very imaginative. It's ads for authors now.
Oh, wow. You cracked the code, man.
Yeah.
Did Facebook contact you and say, stop using our name?
I was worried about that. I really, for a long time, because they're quite hot, obviously, on their IP. And I was worried I was going to get a phone call from someone saying, stop doing this. But the other way to look at it is I've probably brought them quite a lot of money by introducing a lot of advertisers.
They seem
companies don't always see like that. They don't see common sense.
No, they don't. But they are a conversion-driven company. Although we've seen that with Amazon, where they could give a shit when you have very logical, explanations, and they are still not really getting it. Actually, that's a really good question, Mark. You're really clearly have your pulse on everything. You are a data geek. You are really invested in the space, and you talk to people constantly. You do a much better job of that than we do, keeping your finger on that. So where do you see things going? Not just Amazon versus Wide, which I think is an argument we all love, but the space in general, ads, all of it. Where do you think that the industry is going a year from now and 5 years from now?
I think Amazon ads is the one I'm looking at those most with the most interest at the moment, because the difference between Facebook has been great for me in lots of different ways, but the struggle with Facebook is you've got to take people who see an ad in their newsfeed, and maybe they're on the newsfeed just to see pictures of their friends' kids or whatever, their or meals or whatever the shit people see on political adverts, whatever, anything. Exactly, on their feed. So you got to get them out of that frame of mind, which may be they're not thinking about buying a book. They're thinking about something completely different. So you've got to break them out of that, take them to Amazon or Apple or Kobo to make a purchase. The difference with Amazon ads is that they are looking for books, right? They're on Amazon. They're looking for books. So if it's a sponsored keyword ad, maybe they've just typed in new thriller.
On a page that they're already warmed up. They're already hot. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean, Amazon is, you guys have mentioned this before, is the third biggest search engine in the world, and also more than that, it's weaponized. So it's one click to buy something.
Yes.
So when you start thinking about it in those terms, that's why Amazon ads are exciting. Now, the only downside with Amazon ads is there's a few downsides. The interface is an absolute dog's dinner. It's really difficult.
The dog's dinner. Can I use that? That's so good.
Go for it. It's a tough one to navigate. So I have to every day I download the spreadsheets, which are cumulative, into my own spreadsheet, which then breaks it down into daily chunks, so I can see patterns which you can't see otherwise. Which means just basically otherwise you're just guessing a lot of the time. So it's a real pain in the neck. I'd rather it was Facebook, on the other hand, is like unbelievably thorough with the metrics that they give you. So I think, I know, and I speak to the guys at AMS quite a lot, and I know they're working to on the interface, and that's going to change. They're constantly bringing in new ad products. So you'll probably see, if you look on .com at the moment, there's a new ad placement which is just quite wide. It's quite pretty, and it's just below the blurb. So they're always bringing that kind of stuff out. So for me, I mean, I'm finding Amazon ads at the moment are outperforming Facebook ads about 2 to 1 in terms of return on investment. So that's where a lot of my focus is at the moment.
Now, when you do when you do ads to sell an Amazon book on Facebook or some other place, Do you send them directly to Amazon, or do you send them to your website to then go to Amazon?
That's a good question, and that gets to it really depends on what authors want to do in terms of tracking the sales at the other end. Because I teach people to use Amazon Associates affiliate links. So on the one hand, you have what Facebook tells you, which is very thorough. On the other hand, Amazon will tell you whether a unique link delivered a click. That's the only way you can really effectively split test is by using those. There's two ways that you can do it. You can either put them onto a landing page, which is kosher and within the terms of service for Amazon Associates, or you can put the links directly in the Facebook ads themselves, which is not technically it's not allowed. And I have seen a couple of authors, maybe 5 or 6 out of a couple of thousand that we've taught, who've had their associates account, not the KDP account, but the associates account suspended because they did that. So authors have to think about what their attitude to what is probably a fairly small risk compared to quite a big gain, because if you interpose a second step between the ad and the sales page, you're going to lose. It's not going to be as effective. Just kind of common sense is people won't follow through. If you put the links directly in the ads, they'll go straight to the retailer. It's weird actually, because I spoke to the guys at Apple and they were like, "Yeah, God, use our affiliate links everywhere. We don't care."
Right.
Amazon is like, no, we don't want you to do that. So it's odd. I don't quite know why that is, but that definitely is the case.
There's also the question though that we talked about this on quite a few episodes. The whole if you send a bunch of people to an Amazon page and they don't buy the book, won't Amazon bury it in suggesting it to other people? Won't that affect you negatively?
That's speculation, but I think it's probably not far from the truth. I mean, no one really knows how Amazon. I suspect algorithmically, David Gogren's probably a good person to ask about this, but I suspect algorithmically there is something that Amazon will monitor the conversions on the page, and if you're sending tons of traffic and it's not converting, I think Amazon is likely to think that there's something wrong with what's being sold, and it's more likely to push it down rather than promote it.
Yeah, I think we can agree that there's probably not much that Amazon isn't measuring. It's what they do with that measurement. Like maybe some stuff is more punitive than others, but I think they're measuring everything.
It's probably a way to look at it is not so much whether it's punitive. It's if you get a high converting page, right, then more likely to reward. I think it's most likely to be the case.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, something else we've been talking about, it's something that affects us. It also affects people like Chris Fox. Writers that do fiction and nonfiction, sometimes those also bots. Like our audience, they might not buy like a lot of thrillers, but they go and buy our thriller and it screws up the also bots. How are you dealing with that? Or what advice do you have for authors that have that?
Yeah, we have some SPF books, kind of free book. There's a free guide on Amazon ads and Facebook ads. Editing. There's about 6 or 7. They're not, books would be a bit of a grand way to describe them. They're quite slim. But I knew this would potentially be a problem, and I was concerned about it. So I in the same way that Joanna Penn has JF Penn for her fiction and Joanna Penn for the Creative Penn stuff, it's just Mark J. Dawson for the nonfiction and then Mark Dawson for the other stuff, just to try and throw that off a little bit. And I haven't seen any kind of negative cross-pollination so far, but I was concerned about it.
Well, I think you have brute force numbers too. Like you're combating it in a different way than we are. I mean, we're getting destroyed on our also bots. Like it's terrible. So, we just had our thriller come out that, Dave and I worked on for a long time. And by day 3, we were all filled with like right to market and that kind of right. Also bots, but you've got it on. I mean, you've just nailed it on the ad front, on Facebook, on a list of 100,000 readers. Like that's all.
So we need to do more ads.
Well, no, there's a lot we need to do. We need to be more focused on our building. Also, we didn't start tagging and segmenting our people for a long time. So specifically our collective Inkwell list has a lot of smarter artists that we have. Like now we're tagging people as they come in. We're more sophisticated, but we started that list years and years ago, and it's just got some old junk, but that's it. This is an iterative game, and if you inherit a lot of old stuff, it's kind of hard sometimes.
Yeah, Dave's right. There is a way to heal those, to correct the also bots, and that is just to direct a lot of relevant traffic to it. That will involve a little bit of spend in terms of either Facebook ads or Amazon ads, but that will clean the non-relevant stuff off the page. Yeah,
I mean, in case it's not clear to anybody listening here, this is it's probably not even obvious, but I'll tell a little bit of a story. So, we were talking for a while about doing our own course, and it kept getting bumped back and bumped back and bumped back. It's just kind of not our thing. Like we just didn't, we didn't have the organization for it. It didn't make sense. And so we have inevitably just kind of pushed it off the cliff, and we said, let's just work with the best people that we know and promote their courses. So this is kind of like another level of collaboration. The fact that like
it is collaboration in a very specific way.
So it's not just like, hey, Mark, come on the show. It's kind of like, this is a little mini JV here because we have the benefit of all your experience rather than us trying to figure it out ourselves. And I just think that that's super cool.
Well, it's the kind of things, like, we're very different teachers, I think. And the kinds of things that we wanted to teach are very experiential. They're not the kinds of things that you can do on a screencast or like this, like Mark said, he's a data geek. So getting the data and synthesizing that for authors is a wonderful thing. It's not something that like I would be bored. Like I wouldn't know where to go with that. Like I want to talk story and funnels and structures and things like that. And so
you're a dog chasing rabbits.
And I'm already overwhelmed. Like I'm listening to this iterations of blah, I can't handle it.
Right.
Mark,
that's the big thing too. Mark is like, you know what? This is, I've got my fiction and this, it's a full-time job. We're always updating and on. And if it's not that we can't do that, but it's really at odds with a lot of the other things that we want to do. So what do we want to spend our focus on? And we'll talk, I think next episode, we're actually recording something on Stories to Go, which is kind of our macro solution to this. But the other side of that is, well, we don't want to ignore it. So what do? We align ourselves with the best in the business. And to our minds, that is clearly Mark.
Yeah, Nick wasn't available. So here I am. It reminds me of, Terry Pratchett, who actually I'm in Salisbury right now. And Terry Pratchett lived just around the corner from us. And he had that T-shirt he had at conventions that said, J.R. Tolkien is dead. Philip Pullman couldn't make it. J.K. Rowling, whatever. Hello, I'm Terry Pratchett. I should get one of those. But it's very kind of you to say that. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
So what else is included? We talked most of the time about Facebook, but you mentioned BookBub, CPM ads. You mentioned AMS ads. What other things are we talking about? Messenger bots.
Oh, that's cool.
Get into that, because I think that makes half the people go, what? And half the people go, phew.
And the other half, of course, that would be difficult. But it also makes people go, I don't mess. That's kind of icky. I don't want people to send messages, which I completely understand. The thing with Messenger is Facebook is monetizing everything, right? So the next thing is Messenger, which is a really big platform for them. It's much bigger than people think it is. And what you can do is you can have a very simple bot, which is basically a piece of software that sits in the background and monitors your conversations, or it kind of wakes up when certain trigger words.
How do you feel about that, Dave?
I can see it being very skeezy.
Let me give you an example, Dave. That I'll try and I thought you might feel that way. So
you came prepared.
I got a good example. If you go to my kind of people can do this. I try to remember what the trigger word is, but if you go to my Facebook page, which is probably something like Mark Dawson, author, I think, and you send a message to that page, and the word is either books or Milton. Try one of those two. What will happen is that the Messenger bot spots that and will lead you through a kind of curated what would you like to read experience. And it will start like, do you want a book that is dependent on the location that it is setting? Do you want a book that's inspired by a film, or do you want the most popular book? And dependent on what they do, it's kind of like choose your own adventure. It's a series of questions that eventually delivers you to the book that is kind of what you think they would be most interested in reading. So it's kind of like it's a curated experience, almost
like
as
that.
Yeah, Dave, yeah. I think I know where your head is going. There's a short story that you described to me a while back. Mm-hmm. This is not that, right? But I can see where you're going. I think the thing with messenger bots is that you want to make sure you're not lying. You're not pretending that this is a real live human experience.
Yeah. I like the idea of putting some humor in there. Hi, I'm the messenger bot.
Exactly. Yeah. Like answering the objections right in the face, I think could be really powerful. You can't think of like the bad stuff about it, because yes, it can be manipulated. And I've already seen some stuff in back channels that I'm like, not with books, actually, with other stuff. And it's really like, really just don't be a dick. But I think in this context, it's really natural. You're actually aiding buyer behavior, which goes back to the original point, which is, yes, messenger bots are tactical. They're not very strategic. But if you understand the human behavior that can drive that volley, well, then you have something that's strategic. And strategic makes it a long-term play. How does this fit into my overall plan?
And the really cool thing, or the other cool thing about bots and about messengers in particular is when anyone interacts with your page in Messenger in any way, they become a Facebook subscriber. And that means that when you have something that you want, provided you have to be quite careful with the content, you can't be too unsolicited, but provided you kind of meet the rules properly, you can send them a message when you've got something new. So for example, for me, a book launch. So I did that the last time I had a book to go, and I sent out, there's about 2,000 people who are subscribers to my page, and the open rates were 95%, right? So just think about that for a minute. On an email, MailChimp, if you get 30%, you're doing well. 95% open. That's crazy. And the click rate was like 40%. It was absolutely, because the thing is, at the moment, this is new. No one's doing it really. And intrusive isn't the right word.
Will.
Of course they will, but you also see it on your phone. So you have to be careful with this, because I don't want to start pissing readers off, but it's hard to miss them. So emails go into spam, they go into promotions folders, or they just get deleted without being read. Messages are a bit more difficult to avoid. And that contributes to a much better return in terms of interaction with readers. And I had a fantastic response the last time I put something out, with a little video from me saying that here's the new Milton book.
Well, Facebook's such a personal space too. Like if you tried this with text, no, like people would be up in arms if they just were getting texts from their. I mean, if you signed up for that, that's different. If Stephen King sent me a text, I'd be very happy to take that text.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if all of a sudden every time books were launching, indie authors were texting their people, and readers' phones are just blowing up every day with all these texts, they're going to be pissed. But Facebook, you're already filtering, and it's a social place, and you're checking in, and it is the perfect environment to try something like this.
Well, Mark said before, like there's a lot of people that are adverse to it. Like they're going on Facebook to chat with friends, look at the pictures of dogs and cats and stuff. So how do you find that balance of how many times to message people?
Very, very rarely. Very, very rarely. I think it's all about setting expectations up at the start. So as long as you say, same goes for mailing lists really. As long as you say, look, I'm going to mail you once a month, or for me, it's when I've got something I think you'll like, so a new book or a deal or something like that, and I stick to that. If I've seen, as Sean says, I've seen some stuff in other kind of digital spaces where people are sending messages every day, right? There's no quicker way to piss me off than to make my phone buzz just as I put my son to sleep.
Right.
That's gonna cause problems. You're gonna get unsubscribed quite quickly. So I think as long as you're respectful and sensitive, and you're not a dick about things, then I think it's a way that you can navigate it and make it work for you.
And do you find a specific time to do it so it isn't hitting someone when they're putting their kids to bed? I mean,
yeah.
I think internationally as well. So what is like the prime time for that? Or can you do it based on region?
Yeah. So you can actually. So today, I hate to kind of pimp our own podcast, but we had Hugh Howey on today.
Pimp away, man.
Was he dressed? I know he likes it a lot.
We've scared him away from this podcast anyway.
He was dressed, thank God. He would have made all of us feel inadequate. But what we did was every Friday, if you're on the SPF Messenger subscription service, you'll get a very, very brief message that says, "This is the new, this is the episode." It's literally a sentence. And you can, with ManyChat, which is the software that I use, you can tell it so that it doesn't make a noise on a phone, so you can have a silent notification, and you can also use effectively time warp. So if I say I want it to hit people's phones at 12 o'clock where they are, so you're not going to get it if I said
3 a.m.
Yeah.
with the loudest noise they have on the phone.
you can make it make a noise.
That'll endear you to a reader's heart forever.
Yep.
Like an air raid siren.
The Amber Alert warning sound.
Children in danger.
Yes.
Here we go.
All right.
So it's good stuff.
Yeah. So ads for authors, everything you would need about advertising basically for authors. Go figure. That's aptly named, I got to say. Like, I know it's ads. I know it's great. It will be open as of whenever you guys see it on the feed.
Yeah.
And like I was saying earlier, Christine has put together some really great bonuses for anybody who wants to get it through us. The link is sterlingandstone.net/Dawson. I should have this in front of me, but I don't. There's a backlist course that Christine's putting together that'll be in there. Some just-in-time learning guides, and I believe there's some other stuff. That'll all be at the page sterlingandstone.net/Dawson. Closes on the 22nd of November, I believe. Is that right, Mark?
Sounds about right. Yeah, opens Wednesday the 8th. I think, yeah, you're right. It's just about a couple of weeks.
So fully endorsed by the SPP crew. Maybe not Dave, because I don't know if Dave endorses shit. So
it sounds interesting, and I like the fact that Mark is updating it. I know a lot of these info market people, like they'll sell something, and then like 9 months later they'll hit you with all the new stuff, but you got to buy like a whole new thing. And, like,
yeah, I hate that.
Man.
How many versions of Mass Control do you have, Dave?
Endorsed by Dave. Dave, you want to give the URL again if you're endorsing it?
Dave, do you endorse Diet Coke?
Yeah,
fully and wholly, and yes,
fantastic. All right. So, anything else that you want to let people know about, Mark?
No, that covers it really. I mean, it's one thing I would say is I am really, really happy for if people want to sign up. There's a 30-day guarantee, and if you don't like it for any reason at all, just for us to refund. I've never had any issue at all with that. It's an expensive course. I don't want people to be unhappy. So if they want to check it out, they get all the content as well. Everything, nothing's held back. If it's not for them, just email us and you get your money back. No problem at all.
Yeah, and I would say in regard to an expensive course, I would add that guessing is expensive.
Yeah, Tammy's leaving Sterling and Stone. I was just sending notes back and forth that when whoever replaces her, not that anybody can replace Tammy, but whoever replaces her,
but whoever we have is going to be starting on this course.
Right, exactly. Like that's day one. You need to go through all this and implement everything that Mark's talking about. So, like I said, because I'm a whore, sterlingandstone.net/Dawson. Mark, thank you so much for being on. It was great to connect. I don't know if we'll see you at the summit or not. We'll talk about that off the air. I'd love to have you just come and visit us. There's a ticket with your name on it if you want it.
Oh, you're very kind. No, I'd like to come.
I'm sorry. I will also say this, like a lot of people approach us with products, and how many have we had on the air? Very, very few.
I can count them for sure.
That's obviously an endorsement. So
yeah, you guys are very kind. Thank you.
That's as warm as Dave gets. That was the equivalent of a hug.
That was also my wedding speech, by the way. There's a lot of women that have approached me, and well, you're here, so lucky.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being on, Mark, and we'll catch up. And just good luck with everything in the meantime.
Thanks everyone.
Guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.